The arena smelled of burned metal and old blood. Ash drifted through the air like grey snow, settling on the sand and the broken armor of those who had fallen before. Above the pit, massive energy fields hummed, invisible but powerful, sealing the combat zone from the roaring crowd. Cale Mercer lay still where he had landed. He stared at the artificial sky projected across the dome. 3 moons hung perfectly aligned above a shattered planet, frozen in a beautiful lie. Someone had paid a lot of credits to make death look poetic. Cale didn't care. He had stopped caring days ago. Slowly, he pushed himself onto one elbow. Pain flared in his ribs, sharp but distant. Pain had become background noise. Fear was supposed to come next, but it didn't. The crowd roared as the opposite gate opened. Cale squinted against the lights, expecting music, drums, something dramatic. The Empire loved spectacle. Instead, there was silence. That scared him more than noise ever could. She stepped into the arena alone. The champion. Tall, blue-skinned, marked with thin ritual lines that shimmered faintly under the lights. Her pale silver hair was braided tightly down her back. She moved with calm certainty, like someone who had never lost. Her armor carried the marks of many battles. 47 victories. No mercy. No hesitation. Cale exhaled slowly. Well, he muttered, pushing himself to a sitting position, at least they sent someone competent. The crowd began chanting her name, a deep, rhythmic sound that vibrated through the arena walls. She ignored them. Her eyes were fixed on him. Not like prey. Like a puzzle. She walked closer, blade resting easily on her shoulder. Each step pressed clean, deliberate marks into the sand. Cale didn't bother standing. She stopped a few steps away. Human, she said. Her voice was calm, controlled, and carried easily across the pit. You are quieter than the others. Been told that, Cale replied. Usually right before someone starts screaming. A ripple of confused laughter moved through part of the crowd. Her long ears twitched slightly. The blade lowered, stopping inches from his throat. Why are you not afraid? She asked. Cale considered lying. Instead, he shrugged. Because fear means you think something good might still happen, he said. I lost that idea a long time ago. The arena went silent. She froze. Something in his words struck deeper than any weapon. Her grip loosened. Cale raised an eyebrow. If you're on a schedule, feel free to get it over with. I hear you've got a reputation to keep. For a heartbeat, the strike should have come. It didn't. The champion slowly lowered her blade. I claim him, she said suddenly. The words echoed like a shockwave. I claim him by ancient law. Alarms began screaming across the arena. Cale blinked. This is officially the weirdest rescue I've never asked for. Middle, the escape. Imperial guards flooded the arena. Energy shackles snapped around Cale's wrists and ankles, cold and heavy. He was dragged to his feet as if he weighed nothing. The champion moved to resist. The first guard who touched her never reached the ground again. The second guard stepped back. Then the suppression fields hit. The air thickened, crushing movement. Even she couldn't fight it. They were dragged beneath the arena, through narrow corridors glowing with alien circuitry. The roar of the crowd faded into distant anger. Cale stumbled. Careful, he said calmly. If I die now, that ancient law thing might get complicated. No one laughed. They were thrown into a containment chamber divided by a glowing energy barrier. Cale hit the floor hard and stayed there. After a moment, he looked up at the ceiling. So, he said, is this where you explain why you saved me, or do we wait for the dramatic execution? The champion stood rigid behind the barrier. You should not exist, she said quietly. Yeah, Cale replied. My commanding officer used to say that too. She studied him. You spoke as one who had already released life. I accepted that it was done, Cale said. Just took a while for the universe to catch up. Silence settled between them. You broke your oath, he added. That's kind of a big deal, right? Yes. Sorry. She ignored that. In our tradition, she said, A soul with no fear cannot be taken by bloodsport. Kale blinked. So, I accidentally became sacred. Yes. Fantastic. My mother would be proud. Something like restraint flickered across her face. You do not fear death, she said. I don't like it, Kale replied. I just stopped arguing with it. That mattered. Alarms wailed again, closer this time. They will not forgive this, she said. Empires rarely do, Kale answered. A voice filled the chamber. You are accused of oath violation, it said. The human will be terminated. Kale sat up. Okay, that sounds unpleasant. The champion moved instantly. Her hand struck the control node in the wall. The containment field flared, screamed, and collapsed. Red alarms exploded throughout the corridor. She grabbed Kale's arm. Run. They ran. Turrets unfolded from the ceiling. Energy bolts scorched the walls. She moved like a storm, blade flashing, cutting down drones mid-air. Kale ran because running was something he still remembered how to do. They dove into a maintenance shaft just as blast doors slammed shut behind them. Kale bent over, breathing hard, laughing. So, he said, on a scale from bad to catastrophic, how bad is this? We are enemies of the Empire, she said. Kale straightened. Guess I finally found something new to lose. They ran through forgotten corridors, ancient systems, places without cameras or laws. At last, they reached an old hangar. One ship. Dust-covered. Scarred. Alive. This vessel predates the Empire, she said. It will not obey them. Kale grinned. I love rebellious machines. They boarded as explosions tore through the hangar. The ship roared to life and tore free into space. Stars flooded the viewport. Kale collapsed into a seat, laughing in disbelief. Well, he said, that escalated. Ending, the choice. The ship jumped into hyperspace. Silence followed. No alarms. No commands. Just stars stretching into infinity. Kale waited for panic. It never came. Instead, there was peace. They will call you a traitor, he said gently. They already have, she replied. I was told I had nothing left, Kale said. Turns out that wasn't true. She turned toward him. I stopped, she said. For the first time. The ship emerged into unclaimed space. No empire. No chains. Only possibility. Kale smiled, steady and sure. I think, he said, I stopped measuring my life by what I lost. She watched the stars. Then how do you measure it now? He answered without hesitation. By what I choose to protect. For the first time in her life, the champion smiled, not as a warrior, but as someone free. And the universe, vast and uncaring, made room for them anyway. The stars outside the cockpit stretched into thin white lines as the ship settled into steady hyperspace. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Kale Mercer sat back in the pilot's chair, hands resting loosely on the armrests, as if afraid that moving too much might remind the universe to start hurting him again. His body still ached, but it was a familiar pain. Manageable. The champion, Valera, as he had finally learned her name, stood near the navigation console. Her posture was no longer ceremonial. No rigid perfection. Just readiness. The ship hummed softly, old but stubborn, like it approved of disobedience. They will follow us, Valera said at last. Kale nodded. Empires hate unfinished business. They do not forgive refusal. He smiled faintly. Neither do humans. Valera studied him from the corner of her eye. You speak as if this is not the end. Kale stared at the stars. It's not. It's just the part where things stop pretending. The Empire responds. Deep within Kryn Imperial space, the arena world went silent. Not the silence of peace. The silence of offense. In a chamber carved from black crystal and living metal, the High Tribunal assembled. Figures draped in ceremonial armor and layered robes watched holographic recordings of the arena again and again. The pause. The lowered blade. The declaration. I claim him. One of the elders struck the floor with a staff that hummed with power. A champion hesitated. It hissed. Over a human. Another voice, cold and measured, responded. Not just hesitated. She chose. That was worse. The empire was built on obedience, ritual, and fear. Choice was dangerous. Choice spread. Track them, the tribunal commanded. Use everything. They fled into unclaimed space. Then we will remind the galaxy who owns the dark. Orders rippled outward. Fleets awakened. Hunters prepared. And a single human name was flagged across Imperial systems. Kale Mercer. Designation. Destabilizing variable. Learning each other. The ship dropped out of hyperspace near a dead star system. Broken planets drifted slowly, remnants of something ancient and violent. Valera guided the ship toward a hidden asteroid belt and powered down the main engines. They will scan the common routes first, she said. We need time. Kale nodded and stood, joints popping. So, he said casually, now that we're fugitives, do we get a plan, or do we just keep running until something explodes? Valera considered this seriously. I have never planned for myself, she admitted. Only for victory. Kale leaned against the wall. Good news. Humans are fantastic at improvising. She tilted her head. Improvisation is inefficient. Yep, he said. That's why it works. They moved through the ship together, checking systems, ration stores, and old weapons the Empire had forgotten. Valera watched Kale closely. He wasn't fast. He wasn't strong compared to her. But he noticed things. Loose panels. Energy fluctuations. Patterns in the ship's old design. You were a soldier, she said. Yeah. Special forces. Not special, Kale replied. Just stubborn. She accepted that answer. The first hunt. The warning came without sound. The ship's sensors flared briefly, then dimmed. Valera's ears snapped forward. Hunter craft, she said. Kryn design. Kale straightened. How many? 3. He exhaled. Overkill is their love language. The old ship was not built for combat. Its weapons were outdated, its shields thin. Running was an option. So was hiding. Kale shook his head. They won't stop. Not now. Valera looked at him sharply. You suggest fighting. I suggest teaching them something. The hunter craft closed in, sleek and deadly, cutting through the asteroid field with practiced ease. Kale rerouted power manually, bypassing safety protocols. What are you doing? Valera asked. Making the ship uncomfortable, he replied. Trust me. The first hunter fired. Kale cut the engines. The ship went dark. Dead. The hunter craft overshot, confused by the sudden loss of heat and power. Valera understood instantly. She redirected emergency thrusters and rotated the ship silently. When Kale restored power for half a second, the old ship unleashed everything it had. One hunter vanished in fire. The second collided with an asteroid while trying to evade. The third turned to flee. Valera did not hesitate. She fired. Silence returned. Kale slumped into his chair, breathing hard. Well, he said, that's going to annoy someone important. Valera stared at the wreckage. You are dangerous, she said quietly. He smiled tiredly. I keep hearing that. A signal spreads. The Empire did not announce the loss. They buried it. But secrets travel. Smugglers whispered about an arena champion who defected. About a human who faced death without fear. About Imperial hunters that didn't come back. On border worlds and forgotten stations, people listened. Prisoners. Indentured workers. Soldiers who had obeyed too long. Hope did not explode. It leaked. The question. They hid on a small, nameless moon. Thin atmosphere. Low gravity. Quiet. Valera stood outside the ship, staring at the horizon. I have killed 47 beings, she said. Kale joined her, hands in his pockets. You were used. That does not erase the blood. No, he agreed. But it explains it. She looked at him. Why are you still here? He thought about it. Because you stopped, he said. Most people never do. She turned fully toward him. If we continue, she said, people will die. Kale met her gaze. They already are. Silence. Then she nodded. The choice to fight. The Empire found them again. This time, not hunters. A cruiser. Too big to outrun. Too powerful to hide from. Valera's hands tightened on the controls. We cannot win. Kale studied the tactical display. No, he said. But we can send a message. They opened all channels. Valera hesitated. Kale nodded at her. Your voice matters. She straightened and spoke. I was your champion, she said calmly. I bled for your glory. I killed for your fear. The Imperial commander responded with cold contempt. Return the human and submit. Valera did not waver. I choose differently. Kale cut the transmission and rerouted power to the ship's core. What are you doing? She asked sharply. Human tradition, he said. If you're going down, go down loud. They overloaded the ship's drive and aimed straight at the cruiser. At the last second, Kale triggered the escape burn. The ship tore free. Behind them, the old drive detonated in a wave of distorted spacetime. The cruiser vanished. The shockwave rippled across subspace. Every sensor in the sector felt it. Every oppressed world saw the Empire bleed. The ending, what humans do. They drifted in silence, systems damaged but alive. Valera sat heavily. We are no longer running, she said. No, Kale agreed. We're starting something. A weak transmission crackled in. Unknown source. Human vessel, a voice said. If you can hear this, you are not alone. Kale closed his eyes. Valera looked at him. This is your doing, she said. He shook his head. No, he said softly. This is what happens when fear stops working. The stars burned quietly outside. And somewhere, an empire realized too late that it had tried to break the wrong species. Humans didn't survive by obeying. They survived by refusing.